At some point in life, we all sit down, drink in hand, and wonder if the world around us is just a grand illusion. You have probably felt that too, that brief moment when your mind starts to wander and life seems oddly out of body, almost surreal. It's at such moments that we start to wonder, is any of this even real? That is actually the reason The Truman Show has a special place in my heart. It captures it so well. As a child, I always had this peculiar theory, the idea that the entire universe somehow revolved around me as if I were at the center of it all. It's a strange, almost whimsical thought, but one that's beautifully captured in the hauntingly realistic yet non-horror dystopian masterpiece, The Truman Show. Even as that feeling of self-centered curiosity faded over time, this movie brought it rushing back to me, especially during its unforgettable final scene, which left me in tears. It's a rare gem of a film. Jim Carrey delivers an extraordinary performance, balancing the film's emotional depth, its subtle satire, and of course, the classic Carrey comedy. The Truman Show is more than a movie. It is a canvas of messages layered with meaning, each of which reveals itself based on how you perceive it. And today, we are going to dive deep into this cinematic masterpiece, unravel its rich symbolism, its comment on reality, and the strong emotions it evokes.
There's nothing fake about Truman himself.
Truman Show is a fantastic satirical drama that hit the cinemas on June 5th, 1998. Directed by Peter Weir and written by Andrew Niccol, it has become one of the modern classics in its unique concept, where the movie blends comedy, drama, and some seriously deep existential themes. The movie is about Truman Burbank, a chill, low-key fellow you can expect to make your kids laugh with some face twists. Truman is a sweet, cheerful, ordinary man living what seems like a picture-perfect life in the quaint seaside town of Sea Haven. But there's the twist. He does not know that his entire life has been a reality TV show, 24/7. Everyone in his environment, whether it be family or friends, is an actor, and every moment of his life is broadcasted to an international audience. He is in an international hit reality show where he is the protagonist, but he knows none of his own reality. In the start of the movie, Truman is a cheerful insurance salesman living what appears to be a perfect life. He is not extraordinary, he has no out-of-box talents, he is someone the viewers can relate to and feel a sense of achievement through him. He is satisfied with an ordinary job, has a beautiful wife to come home to, and a satisfying bed life. He is just a happy man. However, small cracks in the facade of his world slowly begin to appear, and these moments build an underlying tension that drives the story forward. The first big clue is when the stage light falls from the sky and crashes into the street right outside Truman's house. Local news dismisses it quickly as just debris from an airplane. But for Truman, that was the very first seed of doubt. This sense of discomfort grows as he starts to see a more and more bizarre pattern from people around him. His neighbors seem to be following the same routine day in and day out. His wife awkwardly peddling products in the middle of casual conversations, and even his best friend dishing out over-rehearsed words of reassurance, which makes everything feel just a bit too perfect. As Truman continues to see and experience things that don't make sense around him, he questions the reality that he has known all his life. All of this changes when Truman suddenly spots his father on the street dressed like a vagabond. The thing is, his father was supposed to be dead. Yet here he was. The man is not allowed to answer Truman's questions before he is dragged off by force, leaving Truman even more confused and suspicious. At this point, Truman starts to realize something is drastically wrong. He starts to realize that everything in his life is somehow revolving around him. Traffic patterns change with him. Radio broadcasts seem to talk about his exact location. People start acting strangely when he steps out of his normal routine. The movie rolls into its intensity once Truman decides to confront the god of his fake universe, the controlling showrunner Christof, played by Ed Harris. Christof has been controlling Truman's life from a powerful control room, arranging each little detail to keep alive the idea of a perfect world.
Feels like the whole world revolves around me somehow.
Nevertheless, Carey's performance as Truman is one of the most under-recognized performances when it comes to the movie community. Sure, he won some awards along with the whole film itself, but I feel like not enough people talk about it. He has the perfect balance of comedy and tragedy in this, and his incredible job makes his character, as well as the world, feel so incredibly real. Once Truman begins to realize what's going on, he's sort of in a trance of what's real and not real, and one of my all-time favorite scenes in any movie takes place soon after this. While Truman confronts his wife after slowly uncovering the false relationship he had been in all this time and how his life had been set up in a way where he doesn't and never did have any control over it. Carey's delivery and body language is so chilling based on the context of what's happening, and the director's choice to have his wife seemingly barely even notice Truman's state of mind makes it even more depressing. I can't get over how incredible the scene is where he says,
"What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?"
I enjoyed The Truman Show a lot. I loved the questions that it posed, how it focused on character, and didn't spend too much time on the outside world. Everyone did a good job, but for me, Jim Carrey often took me out of it. Now, this is not to be confused as me stating that he did not do a stellar job. He definitely did. There were times I really liked him. I thought he portrayed a vulnerability or innocence at times very well, but for me, he went into Jim Carrey mode a few too many times. Once in the car when he suspects something with loops, even when he tells Christoph he'd have to kill him, I hear Ace Ventura, or his character from Liar Liar. I know you have to separate the actor from character, but for me, too much of that manic energy of his creeps in. Keeping that aside, Jim Carrey puts it all on the line here. He has his classic goofiness, but he's also vulnerable, emotional, real, and conflicted. The pacing from start to finish is perfect, and it does not taper, culminating to an epic finale that should have everyone in tears of joy, sadness, and relief. The Truman Show manages to accomplish full character development in less than 2 hours, while most TV shows take entire seasons to flesh somebody out. It's such a rare occurrence to be this thoroughly invested in a character in such a short amount of time, as his world begins to literally crumble around him. I mean, the scene when he reunites with his father is my favorite in the entire movie. Christoph and the crew celebrate because they feel they have created a historic TV moment, while Truman is crying because now he finally has proof that his whole life has been a charade. A summary of his epic character development in such a moving scene. Genius.
If I die before I reach the summit, you'll use me as an alternative source of food.
Now, The Truman Show is filthy rich with symbolism and themes, and here's a few I've got. One of the themes explored here is religion. Truman's contentment in living his life in a fabricated world is then infiltrated by some doubt. He starts asking himself if it isn't better to live in this comforting lie, just like one can argue about the existence of heaven or the afterlife, as long as it brings him happiness. By the end, the creator, or Christoph, even instructs Truman not to leave his safe world, claiming that it is better than what lies outside. This is a religious metaphor, but Christoph is no god. He is, rather, the deceptive demon of René Descartes' philosophical works. He has created an artificial world, so instead of heaven, Sea Haven is almost like a twisted version of hell. Another theme is about celebrities. Truman is a celebrity, but he lives in an entirely artificial world because of it. The question comes up, if you are incredibly famous or rich, can you ever really know if somebody loves you for who you are, or are they just riding with you because of your fame or riches? It has repeated itself several times in real life as that the rich or the famous live in a bubble, detached from the reality. In Truman's case, he lives literally in a bubble, separated from the rest of the world. The third is the theme of America. Although many Americans feel that their country is the greatest in the world, considering all its weaknesses and shortcomings, Truman's town daily repeats this idea. In the movie, Sea Haven is shown to be ranked as the planet's best town continuously. This is also reflected with the boat Truman tries to escape on named the Santa Maria, which refers to the ship that made history in American history, subtly alluding to a sense of national pride and isolation. The fourth theme is the one related to the media. Truman's view of the world is limited. It is through people of power that he learns. He He learns about the outside world only through the newspapers and TV, which are designed to limit his knowledge and instill a fear of change and the unknown. This reflects real-world media control and the existence of powerful media moguls. Besides all that, The Truman Show is not only revealing these ideas, but criticizing them. At its core, it is a stinging satire on reality TV, which was just beginning to emerge at the time. It's exposing the invasive and manipulative nature of taking someone's life and turning it into entertainment. The movie also reflects conformity. Truman is a dreaming man who wanted to travel, see the world, and end his monotonous career, but everybody around was working to keep him confined, telling him not to exceed the life they designed for him. And finally, it's a story of free will. The creator tries to do his best to control Truman and not to let him make his choice. Despite all the impediments put upon him, Truman refuses to give up his quest for freedom, which confirms human determination. Now, I prefer to view most art as multiplicities of themes, and that of course include films. That only matters because I think the themes discussed are all more intertwined and collectively valid than they are separate subplots, subtexts. But that's just how I prefer to interpret things. I look at most art, even films, as a tapestry of interconnected themes, not as subplots or subtexts. In my opinion, the true beauty of interpretation lies in understanding how these ideas coalesce into a richer, more meaningful story. And that's why I feel that these themes we discussed are not just separate things, but really very intertwined with each other, working together to present the larger message of the story. More than anything, I think The Truman Show is a strong critique of consumerism. It shows how something that seems harmless can actually turn us into mindless followers of a system built on constant consumption. This idea is made clear in the ending. Even though the viewers find Truman's escape touching, the film cuts to two security guards flipping channels, already looking for the next thing to watch without a second thought. By turning Truman's entire life into a product for people to consume, something the director even calls art, the movie shows how American culture often turns meaningful, personal experiences into things to sell and entertain, leaving us stuck in a cycle of consumption. It's literally a mass cult. If you're not familiar with the term, mass cult refers to forms of culture, like music, drama, and literature, that are shaped, simplified, and popularized by the mass media to reach the largest possible audience. This kind of culture often goes against the values we usually consider important, like honesty, genuine emotions, and true friendships. Another small detail that I rarely see people talk about when it comes to the background details of Truman's world is the complete absence of cats. Interested in more deep dives? Check out my breakdown of Split, another film that plays with reality in unexpected ways. Sea Haven doesn't have any cats because they are too hard to train, which was clearly a conscious decision by the show's creators. You can even see small touches like dog fancy magazines celebrating dogs, and many people in town are shown owning them. What's even more interesting is that Truman himself seems to have never had a pet dog. Every single interaction you see Truman have with a dog on screen is a negative one, which adds another subtle layer to the storytelling in his world. It would have been too difficult for Truman to have a pet, so to prevent him from developing any attachment to animals, the director staged scenarios designed to make him dislike them. This added another layer of control over Truman's life. A good example is the Rottweiler that intimidates him and discourages him from starting his exploration adventure, effectively keeping him in line with the director's plan. There are so many layers of complexity just when it comes to how they run the show that are never actively discussed in the script. That's why it's such an amazing movie.
I'm not gonna make it. You're gonna have to go on without me.
The film has many parallels with René Descartes' Meditations, as well as a slight nod to Plato's allegory of the cave. The uniqueness of The Truman Show's depiction of skepticism is that Truman doubts his external world's validity rather than the validity of his senses. Truman, like Descartes, begins to wonder if he is being masterfully deceived. However, unlike Descartes, Truman is able to look beyond himself to solve his doubts about the world. This becomes clear in the climax of the film when Truman finally meets Christof. Christof, as the director of The Truman Show, is the mastermind behind Truman's entire deception. In this way, he acts like Descartes' evil demon. What's interesting is that Truman sees Christof as a bright light, which mimics the sun, and hears a loud, disembodied voice, making Christof seem almost godlike. This is similar to Descartes' idea in Meditations, where he suggests that his evil demon might actually be God. In the end, Truman faces the person who's been deceiving him all his life and makes the choice to break free from the false world, stepping into the real one. In one of the most powerful scenes, Truman tries to leave Sea Haven by car, but is stopped by a series of strange and unexplained obstacles. A traffic jam, a supposed nuclear power plant accident, and a crowd that seems to be acting way too perfectly coordinated. These carefully placed barriers only strengthen Truman's growing sense that someone is controlling everything around him, working to keep him trapped in his artificial world. Truman's realization intensifies when he sails beyond the limits of the set, physically confronting the artificial boundaries of his world. The moment he touches the painted horizon of the dome is both heart-wrenching and triumphant, symbolizing the collapse of the illusion he's lived in. I always saw a theme in this movie as it is human to yearn for exploration. Maybe that's just a more specific interpretation of Truman's lack of free will though. But I always saw that last step into the unknown as Truman successfully accomplishing his dream of being an explorer. I think this movie is exactly what it seems to be on the surface, and it doesn't need layers of symbolism to be a great movie. The Truman Show is about the media and American culture as it relates to reality TV. We sit at home and watch a celebrity's life instead of having a life of our own. The religious theme identified is deliberately created by Christof. It even has Christ right in it, who sees himself as the creator. It's his own ego and the ego of the industry itself. But when Truman finally gains his freedom and the Truman Show ends, everyone just goes on to the next TV show with no loss. If you love exploring the hidden meanings behind movies like The Truman Show, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. There's plenty more mind-bending movie content coming your way.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.